Mazda hides things, not in a conspiratorial way, in an engineering way. Features that exist, work constantly, and are never mentioned unless you know exactly what question to ask. Today I am going through 13 of them. Some protect the car, some protect the driver, and the one at number 1 is the feature I deliberately saved for last because showing it earlier would have made everything before it feel ordinary. Let's get into it. Number 13, the automatic hazard, lights. Nobody mentions in the manual. Most Mazda owners do not know their car has this feature until they experience it in traffic and wonder what just happened. Brake firmly and hard in a Mazda equipped with Smart City brake support and the hazard lights activate automatically. Not because you pressed a button, because the car detected a braking event sharp enough to indicate an emergency stop is occurring and activated the hazards to warn the vehicle behind before that driver has processed the situation themselves. The threshold for activation is a significant deceleration rate, not casual braking. Normal firm stops do not trigger it. Genuine panic braking, the kind that happens when traffic stops without warning at speed, does. The hazards flash at an accelerated rate specifically designed to be more visually arresting than standard hazard blinking, maximizing the warning effect for a driver approaching from behind at speed. This feature is documented in the owner's manual in a single line as part of the Smart City brake support description. It is buried deeply enough that the majority of owners have never read it. Discovering it during an emergency stop in heavy traffic, then understanding retrospectively what the car just did on your behalf, is one of the more quietly impressive moments of Mazda ownership. Some owners first notice it not during their own braking event, but when the car ahead of them in traffic activates its own hazards during hard braking. The visual effect at normal following distance is significantly more arresting than a standard brake light pattern, and that is precisely the engineering intention behind the accelerated flash rate. And the feature that comes next works in a window so small, most drivers are shocked to find out it exists at all. Number 12, temporary I-stop deactivation. Without entering any menu, Mazda's I-stop system, the automatic engine stop-start that cuts the engine at traffic lights to save fuel, is on by default every time the car starts. The standard way to disable it for a drive is through the settings menu. 2 to 3 taps. Most owners who dislike it leave it enabled because the menu process mid-journey feels like too much friction. There's a faster method that bypasses the menu entirely. With the car stationary and the system engaged, press the clutch pedal to the floor fully and hold it for approximately 2 seconds on manual transmission models. On automatic models, press the brake pedal beyond its normal stopping point to the floor. On certain models, holding the accelerator lightly against the brake simultaneously achieves the same result. The I-stop indicator on the instrument cluster changes appearance when the system is overridden. It will not re-engage until the car is restarted. This procedure is not in the standard owner's documentation. It is documented in Mazda technical service information and in experienced owner communities online. Drivers who discovered it described the difference between fighting the menu mid-commute and a 2-second physical input as the difference between a feature that feels like a tax and one that simply doesn't exist on that drive. There is also an intermediate state worth knowing. Some Mazda models allow I-stop to be suppressed for a single stop rather than the full journey. If the engine has stopped at a light and you want it to restart immediately without waiting for the standard resume trigger, a brief light press of the accelerator before releasing the brake will restart the engine and then allow it to stop again at the following light. It provides a moment of control over the system's rhythm without fully disabling it for the drive. Subscribe right now if this is the kind of ownership knowledge your dealership has never walked you through. Number 11, the AWD lock mode that most CX-5 owners use, completely wrong. Mazda I-Active AWD on the CX-5, CX-30, CX-50, and related platforms operates with a bias toward front-wheel drive under normal conditions. The system monitors 27 individual input channels, including steering angle, yaw rate, wheel speed, throttle position, and even ambient temperature to preempt the need for rear axle engagement before wheel spin occurs. The off-road traction assist mode, activated through the center console button on equipped models, locks the front-to-rear torque split and adjusts the ABS intervention logic for low-traction surfaces. Most owners press it when they are already stuck or already spinning, at which point the system is working reactively rather than preventively. The correct use is preemptive. Engage it before the surface changes, approaching a gravel driveway from a dry road, entering a car park with standing water, pulling onto a muddy verge. The system works best when it has a moment to adjust the preloaded torque distribution before the wheels encounter the traction variable rather than after. Used preemptively, the mode produces a car that transitions between surfaces with noticeably more composure. Used reactively, it is asking the system to recover a situation it was not given the opportunity to prevent. A related detail worth knowing: the AWD system on these platforms does not deliver equal torque to front and rear under normal conditions. and it does not need to. The 27 sensor inputs allow it to calculate which wheel needs torque before the driver realizes grip is about to change. Owners who describe Mazda AWD as feeling less aggressive than competitor AWD systems are often describing an AWD system that is working so proactively it never needs to feel dramatic to stay in control. What we just covered was about mechanical traction, but the next feature addresses something that happens in a fraction of a second, entirely without driver involvement, in a scenario most owners have thought about, but hoped would never arrive. Number 10. What the sunroof actually does. When you hold the button, every Mazda with a power sunroof has this function. Almost no owner who has not specifically looked for it knows it is there. Hold the close button on the sunroof, control past the standard close point. Continue holding it after the roof has reached the fully closed position. The sunroof glass will move back slightly and then rock forward, seating itself with a firmer, more airtight seal than the standard electric close produces. This is the sunroof reset and reseating function. It removes the slight gap that accumulates over time between the seal and the frame, which is the source of the subtle wind whistle at motorway speeds that CX-5 and Mazda 3 hatchback owners commonly report. The fix is free, takes 4 seconds, and eliminates the noise until the seal shifts again. The tilt function is a second underused feature. Opening the sunroof to the tilt position, where the rear of the glass raises but the panel remains inside the roof rail, allows cabin ventilation at motorway speed without the buffeting that a full slide, open sunroof creates at speed. Experienced Mazda owners use tilt mode on the motorway and slide mode in slower urban driving, reversing the instinctive approach most drivers take. Do not skip number 9. The feature it covers becomes useless the specific moment you need it if you have not located it beforehand. Number 9. The fuel door. Emergency release location. This is the feature that has left drivers stranded in a petrol station car park when the power-operated fuel door fails to open with the button. Every Mazda with a power fuel door has a manual emergency release accessible from inside the boot. On most models, it is a small plastic loop or handle, colored orange or yellow, located behind the boot liner panel on the same side of the car as the fuel filler. Pulling it manually releases the fuel door latch when the electrical system has failed to do so. Finding it for the first time while a petrol station queue is building behind you is not the optimal situation for locating a component, hidden behind a boot liner. Finding it during a quiet afternoon and taking a mental note of its exact position takes approximately 90 seconds and converts a potential roadside emergency into a remembered reference point. The emergency release is mentioned in the owner's manual in the fuel section. It is one of several manual overrides Mazda includes in every model that assume the possibility of electrical system failure and provide a physical alternative. Most owners read the fuel section once, note the standard fueling procedure, and move past the emergency release paragraph without retaining it. If a power fuel door has ever failed on a car you owned or borrowed, this number is now the most practically valuable thing on this list. If it has never failed, file it and hope it stays that way. The feature following this one works through a number most owners have never thought about adjusting, and changing it takes less than a minute. Number 8. The programmable auto lock speed threshold. Most drivers know their Mazda locks the doors automatically when the car begins to move. Most assume this threshold is fixed and non-configurable. It is neither. The auto lock speed threshold is user adjustable through the Mazda Connect settings menu under the vehicle settings and door lock section on most post-2015 models. The factory default is typically 15 km per hour, but this can be adjusted upward or removed entirely through the same menu. Owners with young children commonly lower the threshold or confirm it is active for additional security during driving. Owners who find the automatic lock sound distracting or startling in stop-and-go traffic, where the lock engages and disengages repeatedly as the car crawls in and out of the speed threshold, often disable the feature entirely and rely on manual locking habits. The auto-unlock behavior on reaching the destination is separately configurable in the same menu section. The car can be set to unlock all doors when the ignition is switched off, to unlock only the driver's door initially, or to leave doors locked until the driver physically unlocks them. These settings exist because different drivers have genuinely different security and convenience preferences. The factory defaults represent Mazda's estimate of what most buyers want. They do not represent the only valid configuration for how this car can be lived with. Hit the like button right now if you are learning things about your own Mazda you did not know existed. Number 7. Rain sensing. Wiper calibration. During dry weather, Mazda's rain-sensing wipers use an infrared sensor at the top of the windscreen to detect moisture and adjust wiper speed accordingly. Most owners treat the sensitivity dial as a permanent setting they choose on the first rainy day they encounter and never revisit. The sensitivity setting is not a fixed preference. It is a calibration that should match the type of driving you are doing. At low sensitivity, the wipers respond only to significant rainfall, leaving light drizzle on the screen for slightly longer before activating. This is appropriate for motorway driving where forward vision is the priority and light drizzle at speed is managed reasonably well by the airflow over the screen even before wiper activation. At high sensitivity, the wipers activate on very light moisture contact, which is appropriate for urban or slow driving, where aerodynamic assistance is minimal and even light moisture accumulates visibly on a near-stationary screen. The calibration detail most owners miss is resetting the sensor baseline after a windscreen clean. The infrared sensor can be affected by residue from glass cleaner, water repellent products, or even heavy wax buildup on the exterior of the glass. If the rain-sensing wipers seem to trigger inconsistently after a thorough windscreen clean, a brief drive with the sensor in standard mode allows it to re-baseline on the clean glass and return to accurate activation. A consistent complaint from Mazda owners in regions with frequent light mist is wipers that activate too readily in conditions that do not feel like rain. Reducing sensitivity by one step from whatever the current setting is almost always resolves this specific complaint, because light airborne moisture below a threshold the driver considers meaningful is still enough to trigger the sensor at high sensitivity settings. What we just covered was about managing what falls on the car. The next feature manages something happening simultaneously inside the engine that most owners have no awareness of at all. Number 6. The I-ELOOP system and the gauge. Most owners ignore I-ELOOP as Mazda's brake energy regeneration system available on specific Mazda 6, CX-5, and CX-3 model years. Unlike hybrid systems that store regenerated energy in a lithium battery, I-ELOOP stores it in a double-layer capacitor, which can accept and release energy significantly faster than a battery can. The practical function is that energy recovered during deceleration is stored in the capacitor and used to power electrical accessories such as the air conditioning, lighting, and infotainment. This reduces the alternator load on the engine during subsequent acceleration, improving fuel economy by approximately 10% in mixed driving conditions where deceleration events are frequent. A charge indicator appears in the instrument cluster on I-ELOOP equipped models. Most owners notice this display once, have no context for what it represents, and ignore it permanently. The display shows when the capacitor is charged and when that charge is being used to offset the alternator's electrical load. To get the most from I-ELOOP, allow the car to coast to a stop rather than braking sharply at the last moment. Coasting from a distance allows the regeneration to occur over a longer deceleration period, capturing more energy into the capacitor. The fuel economy benefit is real and measurable over a driving day, but requires the driving style adjustment to produce it. The number of features on this list that respond to driving style rather than hardware or settings reveals something consistent about how Mazda engineering thinks. The car meets you where you are, but it rewards you more if you meet it halfway. And the next feature is where that philosophy shows up in the most specific and surprising way of anything covered so far. Number 5. Pre-collision warning distance. 3 settings. Almost nobody changes Mazda's forward obstruction. Warning, part of the iActiveSense suite, alerts the driver when it detects a vehicle ahead and calculates that the closing rate requires attention. The warning distance at which this alert triggers is selectable between 3 settings: long, normal, and short. The factory default is normal. Most owners have never changed it. Long warning distance is appropriate for motorway driving where reaction time at speed requires more advance notice. Short warning distance is appropriate for urban stop-and-go driving where the system would otherwise alert constantly to normal following distances that are perfectly safe at low speed. Running long warning distance in urban traffic produces an almost continuous stream of alerts as the car correctly identifies normal city following distances as requiring attention at motorway closing speeds. This experience leads most owners who have inadvertently selected long distance to conclude the system is oversensitive and disable the feature entirely, losing a genuine safety tool because the calibration was wrong for the environment. The setting is accessible through the iActiveSense menu within the vehicle settings. Experienced drivers who commute across mixed driving environments adjust it between morning and evening drives. The adjustment takes 4 taps. A useful reference point: if the forward obstruction warning seems to be firing every time a vehicle slows in front of you in urban traffic, and you have not changed the setting, you are very likely on long distance. A single menu check and adjustment resolves a complaint that leads many owners to disable the system permanently when the real issue is a misconfigured sensitivity level. The next feature protects something that almost nobody in the car ever thinks about until it fails. Number 4. The cargo floor, that does 2 different jobs, depending on how you set it. Most Mazda SUV cargo areas have a dual-position cargo floor. The floor section can sit in a raised position, level with the top of the boot sill for easier loading of heavy items, or a recessed lower position, maximizing cargo height for tall objects. This is documented. What is less documented is the specific items that exist beneath the floor in each configuration. In the lower cargo floor position on many Mazda models, removing the floor panel reveals not just the spare tire well, but a secondary storage compartment alongside it, depending on the model and market specification. This compartment is often deep enough to store a car cleaning kit, emergency equipment, or other items that would otherwise consume usable boot space. On CX-5 and Mazda 3 hatchback models in particular, the cargo floor also conceals the hooks and anchor points for the cargo net. These anchor points are threaded into the boot floor at specific points and are visible when the floor is raised. Most owners who do not own the cargo net never discover the anchor points exist. Many who do own the cargo net search for the anchor points without raising the floor, never find them, and assume the net is unusable or was supplied incorrectly. The floor takes 30 seconds to raise. The features it reveals below it have been in the car since the factory. Pull the floor. Whatever you find underneath it is now yours. Number 3. The MZD Connect system. Update that improves everything. Below the surface, Mazda. Connect system updates are not automatic. They are delivered via USB from the Mazda owner portal and manually applied through the head unit. Most owners do not know these updates exist or that they address known behavioral issues in the infotainment system. The update history available through Mazda's owner support portal documents specific changes in each version. Updates have addressed connection stability for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, response lag in the rotary commander interface, Bluetooth pairing reliability, audio processing latency, and navigation routing accuracy for owners with map updates loaded. The process is straightforward. Download the update file to a USB drive, plug it into the vehicle's USB port, and navigate to the System Update section of the Connect settings. The car applies the update in approximately 15 to 20 minutes. Owners running a version that predates a specific fix and wondering why a specific function feels unreliable are frequently running a software issue that was identified and resolved in an update they never applied. The fix exists, the owner simply has not downloaded it. Checking the current system version against the latest available takes 5 minutes. On vehicles where the Mazda Connect interface has always felt slightly sluggish or inconsistent, an outdated software version is one of the first things worth ruling out. The Mazda owner support portal also provides release notes for each update version, listing the specific issues addressed. Reading these notes is effectively a record of known problems Mazda identified and resolved. Comparing them against existing frustrations with the system often produces a direct match between a complaint and a documented fix waiting to be applied through a USB drive that most owners have never plugged in. Number 2. The audio equalizer. Hidden inside the head unit. Most Mazda owners who want to adjust the audio balance, fade, bass, mid, and treble have found the standard audio adjustments in the Connect system. What most have not found is the second layer of audio adjustment that exists in a separate menu below the standard one. On Bose-equipped Mazda models, a dedicated Bose equalizer setting is accessible through the audio settings section, separate from the standard balance and fade controls. This menu offers frequency-specific adjustments that the standard controls do not provide. The parameters available vary by model year and Bose system specification, but typically include multiple frequency band adjustment rather than the single bass and treble sliders in the standard menu. On non-Bose models, a similar extended audio menu is accessible by holding the audio button or the volume knob for approximately 3 seconds while on the audio settings screen, triggering a deeper settings layer that is not reachable through standard menu navigation. The extended audio settings produce a meaningfully different sound output than the surface-level controls allow. Owners who have driven a Mazda with Bose audio and been disappointed by the sound quality despite the premium branding have frequently been listening through default equalization settings rather than a system that has been set up for their specific preference. It is worth noting that the Bose system in Mazda vehicles is specifically tuned for the acoustic characteristics of each cabin, meaning the equalization curves that work in a Mazda 3 do not automatically translate to a CX-5. The extended equalizer gives owners the ability to compensate for individual variation in how they respond to the factory tuning, which was built around average listening preferences rather than any specific owner's ears. Now, the one feature I held back deliberately. Not because it is the most complicated, but because everything on this list has been preparing you to understand why this one matters more than any of the others. Number 1. The hidden engineering diagnostic menu. Inside the instrument cluster. Every Mazda built in the last 2 decades carries an engineering diagnostic menu embedded in the instrument cluster software. It was built for technicians and engineers during development and manufacturing, and it was never removed. The access method varies by model and generation. On older models with analog clusters, it is typically accessed by holding the trip reset button while cycling the ignition. On newer digital cluster models, it involves a specific steering wheel button sequence combined with the ignition position. The exact procedure for your specific model and year is documented in Mazda owner forums and enthusiast communities, searchable by your chassis code, and specific enough that following it precisely produces the menu on the first attempt for most owners. Inside the menu, the display changes to show raw data feeds that the standard instrument cluster does not show. Individual tire pressure readings from each corner, not just a warning light. Real-time coolant temperature displayed as a precise degree reading, rather than a position on a gauge. Battery voltage. Transmission fluid temperature on automatic equipped models. Vehicle speed in a numeric display rather than an analog sweep. Odometer in an exact decimal figure rather than the rounded display shown normally. The practical utility is in the tire pressure display specifically. A slow leak that would not trigger the TPMS warning light for days shows up immediately as a numerical variance in the engineering menu. Owners who check this display monthly catch slow leaks in their earliest stages, before the tire has lost enough pressure to affect handling or trigger the standard warning. This menu was not designed for owners, but it was never hidden from them either. It has been in every Mazda you have driven, waiting for the one drive where you know the button sequence. Click the video showing on your left right now, because it covers the exact maintenance steps that keep every feature on this list working correctly for the full life of the car, and the first step costs nothing and takes under 60 seconds.